You made a video, Ashley, for Defenders of Wildlife concerning Alaska's aerial wolf hunting. Let's look at that and then get your thoughts.
Hi, this is Ashley Judd for Defenders of Wildlife Action Fund. When Sarah Palin came on the national scene last summer, few knew that she promotes the brutal aerial killing of wolves. Now back in Alaska, Palin is again casting aside science and championing the slaughter of wildlife. Using a low-flying plane, they kill in winter when there is no chance for the wolves to escape. Palin even proposed a $150 bounty for the severed foreleg of each killed wolf. It is time to stop Sarah Palin and stop this senseless savagery.
You want all wolves, no killing ever of wolves, Ashley?
Oh, of course not, Larry. First of all, howdy do. Thank you so much for having us on the show.
Sure.
What's really important is to maintain a healthy and natural ecological balance between predators and prey, and allowing wealthy humans, primarily urban hunters or those who are bounty hunters from out of state, to go to Alaska and for sport, hire airplanes, hire private pilots to fly around and kill wolves in this incredibly savage manner. It's not right, it's not ethical, it's not appropriate, it doesn't make sense on any level.
Rodger, how many wolves are killed every year with aerial hunting?
Well, their goal this year, Larry, is 616 wolves. That would be 4 to 5 times the number that they killed last year, 124. So they're hoping to expand it considerably. They're trying to kill up to 80% of the wolves in parts of Alaska that are about 60,000 square miles in size, including some federal public land.
This is all legal?
Well, it is, because this is the governor's, excuse the rather unfortunate terminology, but it's her pet project. The people of Alaska twice on separate ballots have voted not to allow aerial hunting, and she has put it back on the ballot, and with very tricky wording that was extremely misleading to the public, it was reinstated. And in fact, she even used, I thought this was very clever, in an underhanded sort of way, $400,000 of taxpayers' money to persuade taxpayers how they should vote on the issue. And when the people overturned it, she had it reinstated in the legislature.
We reached out to the governor, have not got a response. However, on Wednesday, the governor released a statement. Here it is. It is reprehensible and hypocritical that the Defenders of Wildlife would use Alaska and my administration as a fundraising tool to deceive Americans into parting with their hard-earned money. The ad campaign by this extreme fringe group, as Alaskans have witnessed over the last several years, distorts the facts about Alaska's wildlife management programs. Alaskans depend on wildlife for food and cultural practices which can't be sustained when predators are allowed to decimate moose and caribou populations. Shame on the Defenders of Wildlife for twisting the truth. Rodger?
Where do we start?
Yeah, where to start?
First of all, just dismiss the whole first part, because that's just the hyperbole. So just cross that off. We'll handle the middle and the last part.
Well, let me say, referring to us as a fringe group, I think Defenders of Wildlife has been around longer than Alaska has been a state. We have more members than Alaska has residents. So I think, and we're probably the 4th largest of the national environmental advocacy groups in the country. So the idea that we're fringe is a little strange. And as to extreme, I think probably we'd be happy to leave to the American people to judge who's extreme. People who support or champion the aerial killing of wildlife, or people who oppose it. So let's deal with those two.
What about people who say to you, Ashley, you don't live in Alaska, so there's 400 wolves. So what?
Well, I think that in terms of my response to that, Gandhi said it best. We know everything we need to know about a society by seeing how it treats its animals. And this is a conservation issue more than it is particularly an animal rights issue. And it matters to me because, as I said at the top, it's wrong on so many levels. And I think what I find particularly galling in the governor's statement is that somehow this is interfering with poor rural Alaskans' ability to subsistence hunt. That's a distortion. And in fact, there's a native tribe in the area who applied to be able to expand their subsistence hunting, and she said no. This is for urban hunters, it's for trophy hunters from out of state, And in terms of managing the population of caribou, hello, wolves do that best. I mean, that's why the natives honor them as the animal that keeps genetic populations healthy.
Well said. Let me get a break. Ashley, Judd, and Rodger Schlickeisen are with us. She's the famed actress. He is the president of Defenders of Wildlife Action Fund. Ladies of View are even talking about this. Get to them when we get back.
The problem that I have here is like a lot of these vocal celebrities, in a way, get very loud about these animal killings. Like, is she as loud as she said how many wolves have been killed? 900 this year. She as loud as the 260,000 kids that are killed in abortions. Like, I don't understand.
Like, you know what? That
no,
you can. You know what?
I do jump.
That's a very, very huge
she's
jump.
using Sarah Palin,
different.
who has also been standing up for human rights and in terms of children's rights, to attack her for this and try to make her
believes. You don't know if she's
animals, not children, right now.
Hang on a minute. Don't tell me what I can think and what I can't think.
It would be nice if we could just stay in the area.
Socialist table here now. Tell me. You're going to tell me. I can make a jump if I make that assertion.
You can make the jump, but it'd be easier to have the conversation if we could just stick to the wolves.
We'll have Ashley respond. But first, it's called a grabber. We'll check with Anderson Cooper on AC 360 scene. What's coming up at the top of the hour?
Larry, we're following breaking news out of Washington. You talked about it earlier tonight, the latest details on the stimulus compromise.
Okay, Ashley, what do you make of that?
What I make, Larry, is that we're in a transition period in our country where we're figuring out that we can actually care about multiple things at once, and that the archaic debate between the environment and the economy is just that, archaic and over, it's done, it's rigid, black and white, all or nothing thinking. And we know now, by virtue of great thinkers like Van Jones, who wrote The Green Collar Economy, that we can solve our two biggest problems at once, the environment and the energy crisis. We can fight poverty and pollution at the same time. These things go hand in glove. Caring about human rights, caring about conservation, of course they fit together naturally. Look at Rwanda. Stress on the environment, competition for resources due to overpopulation, genocide. It all works together. So it's not an either-or conversation anymore.
How did you get into this, Ashley, the wolf thing?
I got into the wolf thing because my husband is a helicopter pilot and he flies for pleasure, and I became aware of this savage abuse of the art and pleasure of aviation by looking at Defender's website, and I started to give money to Defenders on my husband's birthday, Valentine's Day, different special days throughout the year, and then I expanded that giving to include all the men in my family, and I was giving anonymously and kind of amped up the ante during the election because I really liked that they were exposing especially Governor Palin's extreme anti-conservation agenda. The polar bear issue was important to me. And Rodger sent me a thank you note for my donation, and I'd done all my giving up to that time anonymously, and I had a nudge in my spirit to write back from my own name. And the next day we did the voiceover for the polar bear ad electronically.
And history was made.
And we got that on the air right away, and we've been buddies ever since.
Yep. When Sarah Palin was a candidate last fall, I asked the animal expert Jack Hanna his take on the governor's stance on aerial hunting. Watch. I wanted to ask you one quick question about Governor Palin of Alaska. Does it bother you that she hunts and kills wolves?
No, I don't know what she kills, but
wolves
no matter what party you're in, the point is, Larry, that hunting is a necessity because of what man has done. To answer your question, is I don't hunt, but some of my best friends are hunters, and some of the best conservationists in the world are hunters, because how do we control what we've messed up? How do we control deer populations? How do you control wolf populations? Because of our ecosystem.
So you have no objection to it?
No,
I just was asking.
No. If it's done according to what the state regulations are by the Game and Fish Commission. Each state has a different Game and Fish Commission.
Rodger, how would you respond?
Which in Alaska is appointed by Governor Palin. Isn't that convenient?
Well, that's right. I think, Jack, if he had been addressing the specific issue of the aerial killing that's going on in Alaska, and he was aware of the fact that hundreds and hundreds of scientists have repeatedly rejected this, repeatedly complained to Alaska's government and to Governor Palin in particular about this, because of the unscientific nature of this, he wouldn't be saying it the way he did. I don't think he meant to imply that he approved of aerial slaughter of wildlife in Alaska. I'm sure he didn't mean to apply that.
Ashley, you think you're going to get it changed?
Oh, of course we are. Of course we are, Larry.
We have a suggestion, actually. It occurred to me sitting out in the other room, Larry. Governor Palin is very proud of this program, and she thinks that it is the right thing to do. And I'm sure she believes in transparency in government, too. So my suggestion is that maybe she invites CNN up to film one of these aerial wolf killing outings. I'm sure I'm sure other networks would like to come up too, and then you could put this out for all of the public in America to see exactly what this is about, and she can proudly describe it and stand up for it.
And if you wait until
CNN, but I would bet they'd go. Yeah, yes.
I bet they'd go.
Well, then they might want to wait until she expands it, because she now proposes that the aerial hunting include black bear sows and their baby cubs.
Right. Ashley, great seeing you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Larry. Pleasure.
Rodger, you remain a minute, and we'll be joined by Rod Arno, the executive director.